Hana's quiet, modern apartment, late evening. The light from the city spilled through the large windows, casting long shadows across the room. Outside, the hum of traffic blended with the faint ringing of a distant siren. Inside, it was peaceful, save for the soft glow of a desk lamp. Hana sat at her sleek wooden desk, surrounded by scattered papers and an open laptop. She wasn't used to quiet like this. Her life was fast-paced, full of meetings and social media posts for her startup. But tonight, everything was different. The envelope that had arrived earlier lay untouched on the table in front of her. It was thick, off-white, and sealed with an elaborate wax insignia. She hadn't wanted to open it immediately, unsure of what it might mean, but curiosity gnawed at her. It was addressed to her, in elegant handwriting that looked like it belonged to a time long past. Her great-grandfather had passed away years ago, leaving behind a modest estate and little more than some old family heirlooms. Hana had no reason to expect anything beyond the usual collection of dusty photos and trinkets from a forgotten era. So why had this envelope come now? She reached for it, fingers trembling slightly. The wax seal broke with a soft crack, and she slid out a letter, its paper thick and rich with the smell of age. Her heart quickened as she unfolded it. The letter. Dear Hana Tesla. We regret to inform you that your great-grandfather, the late Nikola Tesla, has left behind certain artifacts and documents that were never fully revealed to the public. These secrets have been guarded for over a century, passed down through a select few. It has come to our attention that you, as a descendant of Tesla, are the rightful heir to these mysteries. Your inheritance is not just a matter of property but of knowledge, knowledge that has the potential to change the course of history. Please come to the address below at your earliest convenience, where you will find the key to unlocking your great-grandfather's legacy. The Tesla Family Trust. Hana's mind raced. She reread the letter, each word sinking in like a stone in a pond. Nikola Tesla. The name hit her like a wave, even though it had always loomed large in her life, a shadow that lingered over her family. Her great-grandfather's work had always been steeped in legend and mystery, and now, she was being told she was the key to unlocking it all. Her fingers brushed over the text, feeling the weight of its implications. Her heart pounded in her chest. Tesla had always been a distant figure, someone whose brilliance had been praised but whose life had been cut short by eccentricity, obsession, and loneliness. She had always thought of him as a genius lost to time, a name in history books. But now, suddenly, he felt closer. She felt a strange pull, a sense of destiny she couldn't explain. She glanced at the address written at the bottom of the letter. The place was unfamiliar, a remote estate in New York, somewhere she had never heard of. There was something unnerving about the simplicity of the request, the matter-of-fact tone of the letter. Why had no one ever mentioned this before? The clock on the wall ticked louder, reminding her that time was passing. Her phone buzzed on the table, but Hana barely noticed. Her mind was elsewhere, on her great-grandfather's mysterious legacy and the strange inheritance that had just landed in her lap. She ran her fingers through her hair, thoughts swirling. She could continue with her life as it was, ordinary, predictable, safe. But the thrill of possibility tugged at her. What if this was something extraordinary? What if her family had been holding the key to something world-changing for generations? Suddenly, it wasn't just the letter in front of her that mattered. It was the pull of history, the mystery of Tesla's life that had never truly been solved. She had always been curious about her great-grandfather's legacy. Wasn't this what she had been waiting for? She stood abruptly, pushing the chair back so hard it scraped across the floor. Without thinking, she grabbed her coat and the letter, stuffing them into her bag. She wasn't going to waste any more time. Could it really be true? Hana whispered to herself, her voice catching in her throat. She wasn't sure what she was asking, if the letter was genuine, if she could trust it, or if she was ready to uncover the kind of truths that could change everything. She hesitated at the door, looking back at her apartment one last time before stepping into the unknown. She stepped out into the cold night air, the city around her humming with life. But within her, a different kind of energy stirred, a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Hana felt something inside her shift. This wasn't just about the inheritance anymore. It was about something much bigger, something tied to a legacy, a story long untold. As the letter burned in her pocket, Hana knew one thing for certain: whatever happened next, her life was about to change forever. The wind picked up as Hana walked, her thoughts racing with possibilities. As she glanced up at the sky, a dark silhouette moved across the moon. Unseen, it followed her, its presence unnoticed. The secrets of the past were beginning to awaken, and Hana was about to learn just how far those secrets would go to protect themselves. Tesla headquarters, Silicon Valley, mid-morning. The sleek, futuristic building stood in sharp contrast to the surrounding landscape of Silicon Valley. Glass walls reflected the sunlight, casting an ethereal glow on the landscape around it. Inside, everything hummed with efficiency, clean lines, cutting-edge technology, and an air of quiet, unstoppable progress. Hana stood in the lobby, feeling a sudden sense of smallness as the enormity of what she had stepped into began to settle in. She wasn't just at any tech company, she was standing in the heart of a visionary empire, built on the very legacy her great-grandfather, Nikola Tesla, had left behind. Her fingers tightened around the letter she had received only days ago. It had led her here, to a meeting with Elon Musk himself, a man who had made a fortune turning Tesla's namesake into a symbol of the future. A receptionist greeted her warmly, offering a pleasant smile, but Hana could feel her nerves flicker. The building, the people, even the air seemed charged with ambition. "You're here for Mr. Musk?" the receptionist asked, glancing at the clipboard on her desk. "Yes, that's right," Hana replied, her voice steady, despite the thrum of uncertainty pulsing under her skin. She was escorted to a large elevator, which whisked her up to the top floor in a matter of seconds. The doors opened to reveal an expansive, open-plan office space. The scent of freshly brewed coffee lingered in the air. Tesla engineers and researchers walked past, absorbed in their own work, yet each one seemed to be moving with a sense of purpose that matched the building's sleek modernity. At the far end of the room, sitting at a minimalist desk that looked more like a work of art than a functional piece of furniture, was Elon Musk. He was dressed casually in a black t-shirt and jeans, his expression focused as he typed quickly on his laptop. But as soon as he noticed her approach, his face broke into a smile. "Ms. Tesla, welcome," he said, standing up to shake her hand. His grip was firm, his eyes alight with a strange intensity. "It's an honor to finally meet you." Hana nodded, still absorbing the surreal nature of the moment. "Thank you for seeing me, Mr. Musk." "Please, call me Elon," he said with a playful wink, motioning toward a chair in front of his desk. "Would you like some coffee? Tea? Anything?" Hana shook her head politely, still taking in her surroundings. "I'm all right, thank you." Elon sat back down, leaning forward slightly, the intensity in his eyes never fading. "I've been reading about your great-grandfather for years," he began. "Nikola Tesla, he was a true visionary. One of the greatest minds of his time, and arguably the most misunderstood. The work he did, the inventions he left behind, they could have changed the world, but most of it was buried in secrecy. It's incredible that you're here now, holding the key to it all." Hana felt a sudden pressure, like the weight of history itself was resting on her shoulders. She looked at Elon, unsure of how to respond. I'm not sure I understand what you mean. I don't even know what I'm holding yet. The letter I received said something about documents and blueprints, secrets Tesla kept hidden." Elon's gaze sharpened. "The world doesn't know half of what Tesla was working on before he died. Some of it's been kept secret, hidden by people who saw it as too dangerous. Others didn't want it to fall into the wrong hands. But your great-grandfather wasn't just inventing for the sake of innovation. He had a vision. A vision of a future where energy was limitless, free for all. And those blueprints? They're the key to unlocking that future. Hana shifted in her seat, unsure whether to be excited or alarmed. And you think that I, someone who's just a descendant, can help unlock it? Elon leaned forward again, his eyes gleaming. Absolutely. Tesla's work was never meant to stay buried. If the world had understood it back then, we'd be living in a completely different reality today. That's why I reached out to you. You're the key to completing his legacy. You can help us bring his greatest invention into the light. A nervous laugh escaped Hana's lips. I didn't know that opening an envelope would bring me into the middle of something like this. Elon's lips twitched upward, his enthusiasm unabated. I know it sounds overwhelming. But think of it. Think of the possibilities. Tesla was thinking on a level no one could comprehend at the time. We've only scratched the surface of what he was capable of. You can help us finish what he started. Hana leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. She'd read about her great-grandfather's work, his ideas about wireless energy, free energy, and his obsession with the power of the Earth itself. But there had always been an air of mystery surrounding Tesla's final years, and the scattered remnants of his work that had never been fully understood. She'd never imagined she would be caught in the middle of it. All right, she said, her voice firmer now. What exactly do you need from me? Elon smiled, his excitement palpable. I've already started gathering the pieces. We've found fragments of Tesla's last journals, blueprints for an energy device unlike anything we've seen before. But there's more, something in his notes about a technology that could disrupt everything we know about energy and even reality itself. Hana raised an eyebrow. Reality itself? That sounds extreme. It's true, Elon replied, his expression deadly serious. Tesla was working on something that could alter the very fabric of space and time. Something he believed could unlock the full potential of human consciousness. But it's been lost, until now. And that's why I need you. Your great-grandfather knew you would be the one to find it. A chill ran down Hana's spine. This wasn't just about machines and power anymore. This was about something far bigger, something that could reshape the world. She stood up slowly, her hand resting on the back of the chair as she gazed out the window at the sprawling city below. The weight of Tesla's legacy, and now her own place within it, felt both exhilarating and terrifying. And what happens if we find it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elon stood as well, his eyes locking with hers. We change everything. But it's not going to be easy. There are others who want this technology, people who will stop at nothing to get their hands on it. We're not the only ones searching for Tesla's greatest secret. Hana took a deep breath, the enormity of the situation settling on her. She knew she had no choice but to follow this path. Tesla's legacy had called her, just as her great-grandfather had always predicted. And now, it was her turn to help bring his vision into the light. As they shook hands once again, the hum of electricity seemed to pulse in the air around them, as if the very building had come alive with the potential of Tesla's genius. Hana felt a strange pull, a connection to something far beyond her understanding, and in that moment, she realized that this was only the beginning. A hidden vault beneath Tesla's old laboratory, New York, late afternoon. The cool, damp air of the underground vault hit Hana the moment she stepped inside. The vault was located beneath one of Tesla's last known laboratories in New York, a place he had used to house his most confidential work. Despite its modern surroundings, the building above had concealed an ancient secret, known only to a few of Tesla's closest associates. The dim light from their flashlights flickered slightly, casting long shadows across the stone walls. Rows of shelves lined the vault, each one meticulously organized with brittle papers, aged blueprints, and dust-covered equipment. It was like stepping into a time capsule from a forgotten era. Hana felt the weight of history pressing down on her as she and Elon Musk walked deeper into the vault, the silence around them thick with anticipation. Tesla wasn't one for keeping his work organized, Elon remarked, his voice breaking the silence as he moved toward a nearby shelf. His flashlight illuminated a stack of old journals, some of which appeared to be handwritten in a dense, almost indecipherable script. Hana didn't respond right away. She was mesmerized by the sheer volume of Tesla's work that lay before her. She had known of his genius, of course, but this was different. This was intimate, personal, his mind laid bare in a way that she hadn't expected. It was like he had left his soul in this room, scattered across these papers. Her fingers brushed against an old wooden crate at the far side of the vault. Something about it stood out, there was a sense of finality to it, as if it held the last piece of the puzzle Tesla had been working on before his death. The crate was unmarked, unlike the others, and the air around it felt thicker, charged. "Elon, over here," Hana called quietly. Elon turned and walked over, his footsteps echoing in the stillness. When he saw the crate, his eyes narrowed. He had seen this vault before, but this was new, a discovery that felt more like destiny. "Could this be it?" he asked, a mix of excitement and caution in his voice. Hana kneeled down in front of the crate, her hands moving carefully over the ancient wood. She could almost feel the energy emanating from it. This was it, the final piece Tesla had locked away, just as the letter had hinted. Slowly, she pried open the lid. Inside, there was a collection of neatly stacked papers, but at the very top was something more substantial, a small, intricately designed metallic box. It shimmered faintly, as if it contained some sort of energy within. "What is that?" Hana asked, her voice low with awe. "I don't know," Elon replied, his tone grave. He crouched beside her, his flashlight catching the contours of the metal box. It looked like nothing Tesla had ever created in the public eye. Its design was more advanced, almost futuristic, with fine engravings and a pattern of interlocking coils. With hesitant hands, Hana reached for the box. As soon as her fingers made contact with it, she felt a subtle vibration pulse through her. It was faint, like a whisper in the dark, but it was there. Her heart raced as she carefully lifted the box out of the crate. "Be careful," Elon warned, his voice taut with concern. Hana's eyes were locked on the box, her curiosity overcoming the caution she had been taught to maintain. She turned it over, inspecting every surface, searching for any sign of a mechanism. The metal was cool to the touch, almost impossibly smooth. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. "I think it's more than just a box," she murmured. Elon's eyes gleamed with recognition. Tesla was obsessed with energy, with the concept of wireless transmission. This could be a device of unimaginable power. The air around them seemed to thrum, charged with the possibility of what they might have uncovered. The room felt smaller, as if the walls were closing in on them. Tesla had left a legacy of greatness, but this was different. Hana knew it in her bones, this was not just a forgotten piece of technology. This was the key to unlocking the future. "Let's open it," Hana said, her voice barely above a whisper. Elon's gaze flickered to her, weighing the risk. "We don't know what it is. What if?" Before he could finish, the box in Hana's hands shifted. The small engravings on the surface began to glow faintly, as if responding to her touch. Suddenly, there was a soft click. Hana gasped, pulling her hand back instinctively, but the box didn't open. Instead, a thin shaft of light shot from the center, projecting a holographic image into the air before them. Both of them froze. The hologram flickered, revealing a blueprint, an intricate, detailed design of some sort of device. It was unlike anything Hana had ever seen. The technology was so advanced that it felt almost otherworldly, as if it belonged to a time centuries ahead of their own. She could see swirling patterns, energy nodes, and what appeared to be an oscillating energy field that seemed to defy all known principles of physics. This is, Hana trailed off, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. It was Tesla's work, yes, but it was more than just an invention. It was a blueprint for something that could change everything. A device that could, perhaps, alter the very nature of how humanity interacted with energy and time. "This is it," Elon said, his voice barely a whisper. His eyes were wide, unblinking as he studied the image. This is Tesla's final invention. He was working on something that could change the world. Hana's mind spun as the implications of the discovery began to sink in. She had always known Tesla's genius was beyond comprehension, but now it was clear, he had left behind something that could alter the course of history itself. This wasn't just about energy anymore. This was about power, real power, the kind that could shape the future in ways no one was ready for. Before either of them could say anything further, a loud crash echoed from the far side of the vault. Both of them spun around, their flashlights darting toward the noise. Someone was coming. Elon and Hana exchanged a quick glance, the weight of their discovery still hanging heavy in the air. The moment was interrupted, shattered, by the sound of approaching footsteps. Whoever it was, they were not here to admire Tesla's work. The stakes had just escalated. The vault beneath Tesla's laboratory, New York, evening. The footsteps were growing louder, quick and deliberate. Hana's pulse quickened as she instinctively moved toward the far wall of the vault, pulling Elon with her. The metallic box still hovered in her hand, its soft glow pulsing faintly, casting strange shadows on the stone walls. She could feel the air thickening, as if the very space around them had become charged with an unseen force, pressing in on them from all sides. Who could that be? Elon whispered, his voice strained. Hana's mind raced. They were supposed to be the only ones who knew about this place, this vault, its contents. Tesla had kept his secrets well hidden, so why was someone here now, and so soon after their discovery? She peered cautiously around the corner of the wall, her eyes scanning the dimly lit entrance to the vault. At first, she saw nothing but the flickering shadows. Then, a figure appeared, tall, shrouded in darkness, their face obscured by the hood of a long black cloak. The figure's movements were almost predatory, calculated, as if they were stalking their prey. They stepped into the vault with uncanny silence, their boots making no sound on the cold stone floor. It was a woman, though her presence felt anything but human. Hana's breath caught in her throat. Something about her felt wrong. The woman was too still, too composed, and her eyes, when they briefly caught the light, shone with an unnatural intensity, like they were staring straight through Hana. "Elon," Hana murmured under her breath. "We need to leave, now." But Elon had already taken a step forward, his curiosity overriding his caution. He could feel the weight of Tesla's legacy pressing down on him. This was not just an ordinary person, this was someone who had come for the technology, of that, he was certain. Before he could say anything, the woman spoke. Her voice was calm, detached, yet carried a sharp edge that made the hairs on Hana's neck stand up. "You found it, haven't you?" she said, her voice echoing through the vault. There was no question in her tone, only cold certainty. "Who are you?" Elon demanded, stepping in front of Hana instinctively, his body tensing. His hand hovered near his jacket, where he kept his phone and a small device he always carried for emergencies. The woman's lips curled into a thin, almost imperceptible smile, and she tilted her head slightly, as if amused by his question. "Does it matter?" she replied. "What matters is that you're no longer in control of the situation." Hana's grip on the metallic box tightened. The strange pulse of energy from the device seemed to intensify, and she could feel it vibrating in her hands. It was as though it had its own awareness, responding to the woman's presence. The woman took a step closer, her boots scraping faintly against the stone floor. "You think you understand what Tesla left behind. But you don't. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Hana swallowed hard, her heart racing. She wanted to run, but the woman's presence was like a wall, an impenetrable force. The temperature in the vault seemed to drop, and her breath came out in clouds of condensation. The walls felt like they were closing in, as if the vault itself had become a trap. What do you want? Elon's voice was tight with tension, his eyes scanning the shadows, trying to calculate his next move. The woman did not answer immediately. Instead, she stepped closer, almost gliding toward them. The closer she got, the more the air around her seemed to shimmer, an ethereal energy, like static electricity crackling between the molecules. It was as though she were a living, breathing conduit of power. Elon Musk, the great admirer of Nikola Tesla, she said, her tone dripping with irony. You think you can carry his legacy, but you're too attached to your modern ideals. Tesla's work goes beyond your understanding. Beyond your time. Hana's mind raced. She was starting to understand, but it was almost too late. Tesla's legacy wasn't just about inventions or machines, it was about something deeper, something more fundamental. And this woman? She knew it. She knew what was at stake, and she was here for more than just the technology, they were after control. What are you talking about? Hana managed to choke out, trying to steady her breath. The woman smiled again, her eyes flickering with cold amusement. You'll see soon enough. Everything Tesla left behind was meant for a select few, and I don't think either of you were chosen. Before either of them could react, the woman raised her hand, her fingers twitching in the air as if she were manipulating invisible strings. Hana felt a sudden rush of wind, cold and biting, sweep through the vault. The metallic box in her hand seemed to respond to the pressure, pulsing harder, faster, until she thought her wrist might snap from the intensity. Then, with a sudden, deafening sound, a violent crack reverberated through the room. Hana stumbled back, her grip slipping from the box. The force was overwhelming, as if the vault itself had been struck by a shockwave. Elon reacted instantly, grabbing Hana's arm and pulling her toward the far corner of the vault. His movements were fast, but the woman was faster. In the blink of an eye, she was standing in front of them, blocking their escape. You can't run from this, she said softly. Tesla's legacy is already in motion. The world is already changing, and you have no idea how deep it goes. Hana tried to take another step back, but the force of the woman's presence was almost suffocating, like a weight pressing down on her chest. Her breath quickened, and she felt the metallic box pulse even harder, its energy surging in response to the woman's power. Elon looked at Hana, his expression grim. We have to get out of here, he muttered, but his voice was edged with fear. He had no idea who this woman was, or what kind of power she had, but one thing was certain, they weren't safe. The woman stepped forward again, her movements slow, deliberate. You can't stop what's coming, she said. The energy within that device is already waking. And once it does, nothing will be the same. With a final, lingering glance, the woman turned away, disappearing into the shadows of the vault. Hana and Elon were left standing there, breathless, in the silence that followed. The vault had become a tomb of sorts, a place where reality itself seemed to have shifted. They had been warned, but were they ready to face what came next? The sudden rush of adrenaline began to fade, and they stood frozen in the aftermath. The woman's cryptic words still echoed in their minds, but the immediate danger had passed. For now. But the pulse of energy from the metallic box hadn't stopped, and neither had the feeling that something far larger was at play. The loft apartment in Manhattan, late night. The city lights outside flicker like stars, casting a cool glow over the room. Inside, the atmosphere is dense with anticipation, and the sound of breathing is almost deafening in the quiet. Elon sat at the desk, his hands folded in front of him, staring intently at the metallic box. The soft hum of the device was the only sound in the room, vibrating subtly in the air as if it had a life of its own. Hana sat across from him, her gaze flicking between Elon and the object in her hands. Neither of them spoke for a long time. The vault incident had shaken them both to their core. The woman, whoever she was, had disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind a sense of dread that clung to the room like smoke. And yet, despite the danger they had just narrowly escaped, Hana couldn't shake the feeling that the strange energy emanating from the device was pulling her closer, urging her to understand it. Elon was the first to speak, his voice quiet but firm. "You said Tesla designed this to be more than just a machine. That it was a conduit?" Hana nodded slowly, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns etched into the metal box. The symbols were not entirely familiar, but they resonated in a way she couldn't explain. It felt like they were calling to her, each one tied to a specific part of her own being, some deep, primal instinct buried beneath her skin. "Yes," she said softly. "I think he created this to tap into something that exists between technology and the human mind. It's more than just circuits and wires, it's a bridge." Elon leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he examined her. "A bridge to what?" She glanced at him, her gaze fleeting, uncertain. "To another dimension, or maybe to the mind itself. What if Tesla knew that the mind and machine were not separate entities, but two parts of the same whole? What if this is the key to unlocking a kind of collective consciousness?" The idea sounded preposterous, and yet Elon felt a strange pull, a magnetic force that seemed to draw him in. He had always admired Tesla, his genius, his vision, but this? This was something entirely different. Something that transcended logic, defying the very boundaries of human understanding. As if sensing his doubt, Hana continued. "I know it sounds impossible, but I'm beginning to feel something when I hold it. It's not just the device, it's like it's aware. It's attuned to me." Elon raised an eyebrow. "Attuned to you?" "Like it's responding to me," she said, her voice growing quieter. "I don't know how to explain it, but when I focus on it, I feel connected, like there's something inside me, something Tesla left behind, that only I can unlock. And it's not just my mind, it's like the machine understands." A long silence followed her words. Elon's fingers drummed softly on the table as he processed what she had said. The notion was radical, even for someone as open-minded as he was. Yet, deep down, he couldn't ignore the fact that something beyond mere technology was at play here. "Maybe it's because you're his descendant," Elon said finally, his voice low, thoughtful. "Tesla could have embedded something into your genetics. A connection to his work, maybe even to his mind." Hana glanced up at him, startled by the possibility. "You think this is in my blood?" "It's the only explanation that makes sense," Elon replied, his eyes scanning the box again. "It's not just about technology, it's about you. The fact that you're holding it and feeling these things, it suggests you're part of the equation. Maybe the device reacts to your unique biology." Hana's pulse quickened. She had always felt out of place, like there was something about her that didn't quite fit the world she lived in. Her connection to Tesla's legacy, passed down through the generations, had always felt like a shadow, something she couldn't quite grasp. But now? Now, the shadow felt more like a light that was beckoning her, urging her to step into it. But as she reached out to touch the box again, something shifted. The hum grew louder, almost imperceptible at first, but then it filled the room, vibrating through the floorboards and into the walls. Hana's fingers brushed the surface, and suddenly, without warning, the world around her flickered. For a brief, disorienting moment, reality seemed to ripple, as if the very fabric of space and time had momentarily been pulled apart. Hana gasped, her heart racing, and pulled her hand back. "Did you see that?" she breathed, her eyes wide with shock. Elon was already on his feet, his face pale. "What was that?" "The lights, everything." "I felt it," Hana whispered, her voice shaking. "It's like the machine opened a door, or a window, into something else. I don't know how to explain it, but it felt real. Elon watched her closely, his mind racing. There was something undeniable happening here, something beyond technology, beyond even Tesla's wildest dreams. And if it was true, if this device really did connect the human mind to something greater, then they were on the edge of a discovery that could change everything. Hana shuddered, her eyes distant. It's not just a machine. It's alive, and it wants me to become something else. Something more. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fear and fascination. Elon's mind raced as he took in what she had said. This wasn't just about discovering Tesla's lost technology. This wasn't just about uncovering hidden secrets or proving the world wrong. This was about merging the human mind with something entirely new, something that blurred the lines between man and machine. I don't know if I'm ready for this, Hana admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can handle it. Elon sat down beside her, his gaze softening. We don't have to do this alone, he said gently. We can figure this out together. And in that moment, as they sat there in the dim glow of the city's lights, a strange understanding passed between them. It wasn't just about the technology. It wasn't just about the legacy of Nikola Tesla. It was about the bond between man and machine, an uncharted territory neither of them could have anticipated. As the hours passed, the room grew colder, and the hum of the device settled into a rhythmic beat, almost like a heartbeat. Hana felt herself growing more attuned to it, the device's energy resonating deep inside her, merging with her very essence. Elon, too, could feel the shift, an invisible thread connecting them, pulling them toward something they couldn't yet comprehend. An underground facility, hidden beneath a nondescript warehouse in the outskirts of the city. The air is heavy with dust, the walls lined with shelves stacked high with old, forgotten technology. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting a sickly greenish glow on the metallic surfaces. A large, secured vault door looms at the far end of the room, its cold, steel surface scarred by time. The sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway, the rhythmic thud of boots against concrete reverberating through the empty space. Hana and Elon stood before the heavy vault door, its surface engraved with symbols that mirrored those on the metallic box. It was as if they had stumbled into the very heart of a puzzle, a secret waiting to be unlocked. Hana's breath came in shallow gasps. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the control panel on the wall beside the door, her mind still reeling from the sensations the machine had revealed to her earlier. The feeling of being connected to something larger, something that was both within and beyond her. Are you sure about this? Elon's voice was low, almost cautious. His earlier enthusiasm had dimmed, replaced by a wariness that matched Hana's own unease. He had always been driven by ambition, but even he felt the weight of what they were about to uncover. We have to see this through, Hana replied, her voice steady but her hands betraying her nerves. We've come this far. I can't go back now. Her fingers pressed against the cold metal of the control panel, and the vault door let out a low groan as it slowly opened. The air in the room shifted, as if something had been disturbed from a long slumber. A thick smell of age and decay filled the air as they stepped inside. The room beyond was vast, an underground laboratory of sorts. Rows of old workbenches were cluttered with half-finished projects, and large, humming machines lined the walls, their function unclear. At the center of the room stood a solitary figure, an old man, his back hunched and his face obscured by the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. He didn't turn as they entered, as though he were waiting for them. Hana's heart skipped a beat. There was something oddly familiar about him, though she couldn't place why. Elon, is this, Hana began, but Elon stepped forward before she could finish her thought. Who are you? He asked, his tone sharp but hesitant. What is all this? The old man turned slowly, revealing a face that was both weathered and familiar. His eyes were sharp, piercing, and the lines of his face seemed to tell a story of years spent in isolation, away from the world's gaze. He stared at them for a moment, as if weighing their presence before finally speaking. "I am the keeper of Nikola Tesla's final secrets," the man said, his voice gravelly, worn by time. "And you, Hana, you are the last piece of the puzzle." Hana took a step back, her mind racing. "I don't understand," she murmured. "I thought I was just a descendant, nothing more. How is this possible?" The old man gave a small, knowing smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Your bloodline carries more than just the name of Tesla. It carries a piece of his mind, his essence." He knew, in his final days, that his work could never be completed in his lifetime. So, he encoded his final theories, his most dangerous inventions, into his descendants. "Into you." Hana felt a cold chill run down her spine. "Encoded? But, why me?" "Because you are the key," the old man replied. Tesla's last invention was not just about technology. It was about evolution. About unlocking the latent potential within the human mind. His work was always meant to bridge the gap between human consciousness and machine intelligence. You are the culmination of that work. The bridge between man and machine. Elon glanced at Hana, his expression unreadable. He had always known there was something extraordinary about her, but this? This was beyond even his imagination. "Wait," Hana said, her voice shaky but determined. "If Tesla wanted to use this technology to evolve human consciousness, why hide it? Why leave it all in secret?" The old man's gaze softened for a moment, almost regretful. "Because the world wasn't ready. And the people who knew about it, they were not interested in evolution. They wanted control. Power. And they would stop at nothing to take Tesla's work for themselves." He paused, his face hardening. "There are forces, powerful forces, who have been hunting you for years, Hana. They know who you are and what you carry. And they will stop at nothing to seize it. They believe they can control the device, use it for their own purposes. But that will destroy everything Tesla worked for. It will destroy you." Hana's heart raced as she pieced it together. The danger they had faced earlier, the woman who had tried to steal the device, was just the beginning. There were people who would do anything to possess Tesla's final secret. "Who are these people?" Elon asked, his voice steady, though his eyes gleamed with the intensity of someone used to dealing with high-stakes challenges. "The very same who have been pulling the strings behind the scenes for decades," the old man replied. "The ones who control the world's wealth, its technology, its resources. They are the ones who will stop at nothing to unlock the power Tesla left behind." Hana felt the weight of his words settle over her like a heavy cloak. But there was something else, something she couldn't shake. She glanced at the strange device still held in her hands. The connection she felt to it wasn't just a bond, it was something more. Something deep within her was awakening, responding to the machine. She knew, deep down, that she was becoming something more than human. And that terrified her. "Are you saying," Hana's voice faltered, "that I am the key? I'm not just holding this device. I'm becoming part of it?" The old man nodded solemnly. "Yes. And once you unlock its full potential, you will be able to do what Tesla could not. You will be able to change the world. But be warned, Hana, what you unleash may be more powerful than anything you can control. It will not just change humanity, it will transcend humanity." A deafening silence filled the room as the gravity of his words settled in. Hana felt a surge of energy rise within her, a deep, primal understanding beginning to stir beneath the surface. But with it came fear. Fear of what she was becoming. Fear of what she would have to do. Elon stepped closer, his voice low but unwavering. "We'll face this together. No matter what comes next." Hana turned to him, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. "I don't know if I can handle it." "You don't have to," Elon said, his voice firm with a quiet resolve. We're in this together. And as the old man's words echoed in their minds, Hana realized something. The truth was not just about Tesla's legacy. It was about her own destiny, and the bond that was forming between man, machine, and mind. The room hummed with the weight of the truth now revealed. The air felt thick with the possibility of what was to come. And as Hana took the first step toward understanding what she had become, she knew that the world they had once known was about to be forever altered. The abandoned laboratory, where shadows now stretched long across the cold, metallic floor. A faint hum from the vault echoed in the silence, but the room felt alive in a way it hadn't before. The weight of the secret Tesla had left behind hung heavy in the air. The glowing screen of the device in Hana's hands pulsed with a rhythm of its own, as though it was breathing, alive, aware. Hana stood at the center of the laboratory, her fingers clenched around the device, feeling the pulse of its energy surge through her body. It was no longer just an object in her hands, it was a part of her. A part of something ancient, something beyond her understanding. The hum of the machine had become a part of her heartbeat, resonating deep in her chest. A quiet, electric thrumming that made her feel both alive and alien at the same time. Elon stood by the far wall, his face etched with determination, but his eyes shadowed with doubt. He was the engineer, the visionary. But in this moment, he was as much a student as Hana. They both stood at the precipice, staring into the unknown, knowing that the next decision they made would change everything. "I still don't understand," Hana murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why now? Why didn't Tesla reveal all of this sooner?" Elon took a slow step toward her, his voice calm but firm. Because he wasn't ready. He knew that whatever he created, whatever power he unlocked, would be dangerous. The world wasn't ready for it. And neither were you. Hana turned her gaze toward the device in her hands. The once cryptic symbols on its surface were no longer just shapes, they now seemed like a language, a call to something deep within her. She had thought it was just the legacy of her ancestor. But now, she realized, it was her legacy too. The old man's words echoed in her mind. "You are the key. But you will have to choose." Her fingers tightened around the device, the pressure building, as though the machine was responding to her inner turmoil. Her breath quickened, and her pulse raced. She could feel it, its power coursing through her veins. A choice was coming. It was already here. "Elon," she said, her voice trembling with the weight of what was to come. "What if this is too much? What if I can't control it? What if we end up doing more harm than good?" Elon's gaze softened, his usual confidence replaced by a rare vulnerability. He crossed the room, his steps slow, measured. When he reached her side, he placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Then we'll face it together. We've been facing the unknown since the moment we met. But I know one thing for sure, you're not alone in this." Hana met his gaze, searching his eyes for something beyond the ambition, beyond the brilliant mind that had built rockets and dreamed of Mars. She was looking for trust. She found it. "I want to believe you," she whispered, her eyes drifting back to the device. "But what if this changes me? What if I become something I can't come back from?" Elon's fingers gently brushed the back of her hand, his voice a steady anchor in the storm of her thoughts. "Hana, whatever happens, you're still you. But maybe that, you will be more than you ever imagined. This is a chance to push the boundaries of humanity. Not just for us, but for everyone." A long silence passed between them, the hum of the machine growing louder, like a heartbeat speeding up, urging them both toward something inevitable. The old man, who had been watching silently from the shadows, spoke again, his voice low and heavy. "The choice is yours, Hana. You alone will decide what happens next. You can use this power to change the world, to uplift humanity. Or you can destroy it, allow the forces that seek to control it to win. Either path will have consequences." His words hit her like a slap. She could feel the gravity of the decision pressing down on her chest. It wasn't just about her future anymore. It was about the future of everyone, the ones who would benefit from this technology and the ones who would be consumed by it. She looked at Elon, his face soft, but there was something in his eyes, something that was no longer just admiration. It was trust. And something deeper. But Hana wasn't sure she could trust herself. Could she really control the power Tesla had left behind? Could she wield it without losing herself to it? Could she trust Elon, them, to protect her, or would she end up a pawn in someone else's game? I have to know more, Hana said suddenly, her voice filled with urgency. I need to understand what Tesla did. What I'm holding. I can't make a choice without knowing what I'm up against. Elon stepped back, giving her the space she needed, but his eyes never left her. What do you need? Hana's fingers trembled as she activated the device. The screen flickered to life again, this time displaying complex equations, shifting diagrams, and strange symbols that seemed to rearrange themselves before her eyes. It wasn't just a blueprint, it was a manifesto of human evolution, a map of consciousness, energy, and existence itself. Her mind struggled to process it, but something in her stirred, she understood, or at least, she began to understand. The power wasn't just technological. It was spiritual. Personal. She realized, with a jolt, that this wasn't just Tesla's legacy. It was her legacy. As the information flooded her mind, her body felt as if it were both grounding and electrifying. The power was there, inside her, ready to be harnessed. But she wasn't sure if she could control it. If she should. The old man's voice broke the silence again, as though he had been waiting for her to reach this moment. Now, you must choose, Hana. You can activate it. You can be the one to unlock the door to the next stage of human evolution. Or you can destroy it, destroy the key, and make sure no one can ever misuse Tesla's work. Her heart raced as the choice weighed on her, power, or destruction. Legacy, or safety. Finally, Hana spoke, her voice a whisper that echoed in the cavernous room. I don't know if I'm ready for this. And with that, the choice was made, not through action, but through hesitation. The device in her hands dimmed, its pulse stilled. For now, she had delayed the inevitable. But the truth was clear, whatever she chose next, it would change the world forever. As the room fell silent, the weight of the decision hung between them. The hum of the device was gone, leaving only the sound of Hana's steady breathing. But somewhere, deep in her mind, the machine continued to whisper. Waiting. The quiet aftermath of the storm. The laboratory was no longer alive with the pulsing energy of the device. The silence felt almost suffocating, broken only by the sound of Hana's slow, measured breaths. She stood in the center of the room, holding the now dormant device, her mind still reeling from the choice she had just made. Outside, the world continued on, oblivious to the momentous decision that had just occurred within the walls of the laboratory. But for Hana and Elon, nothing would ever be the same. The room felt colder now. The electric hum of the device had stopped, leaving only an eerie stillness in its place. Hana stood motionless, her fingers still wrapped around the device as if holding on to the last remnants of her decision, the last thread of control she had. Elon was a few steps behind her, his arms crossed, his eyes not on her, but on the vault in the corner of the room. The knowledge stored there was no longer just a mystery to be unlocked. It was a dangerous weapon, one that had the potential to change the course of history. Hana, Elon's voice was low, the words weighted with the gravity of the situation. Are you sure you can't activate it again? We're so close. I know you feel it. Hana didn't turn to face him. She couldn't. She wasn't sure she was ready to see his expression, the hope, the anticipation, the trust he had placed in her. She didn't feel like the person who could carry that kind of responsibility. I don't know what I can feel anymore, Hana murmured, her voice distant. I thought I understood, but, it's like I'm drowning in it, Elon. I can't carry this. Not yet. Elon's gaze softened as he walked closer, his steps measured, cautious. Hana, I know this isn't easy. But you're not alone in this. You never will be. Hana finally turned to face him, the weight of her gaze heavy, burdened. What if this changes me? What if I lose myself in it, Elon? Elon stopped a few feet away from her, a gentle understanding in his eyes. Then we'll make sure you don't. Together, we'll make sure that doesn't happen. But you can't turn your back on it now. Tesla gave you a choice, and you chose not to act. But the world won't wait forever, Hana. There are others who want this power. Who will stop at nothing to take it. A cold shiver ran down her spine. She could hear the truth in his words, the forces that lurked in the shadows, waiting for their chance to claim Tesla's legacy. But even more unsettling was the voice inside her, the one that whispered of possibilities beyond her comprehension, of a power so vast, so intoxicating, that it would consume everything in its path. We have to protect it, Hana said, her voice more resolute now. But I don't know how. Not yet. Elon gave her a small, encouraging smile, but his eyes betrayed the anxiety beneath his calm exterior. You'll figure it out. You always do. But we can't do it alone. We need help. And we need time. As if on cue, the door to the laboratory creaked open. Hana tensed, her grip tightening on the device. They weren't alone, not anymore. The old man stepped into the room, his presence as imposing as ever. His face remained unreadable, but his eyes, those ancient, knowing eyes, studied Hana with an intensity that made her heart skip a beat. The time will come, Hana, the old man said, his voice like gravel. But you are not ready. Not yet. You will face a choice again, and next time, there will be no hesitation. There is no going back once you cross that line. Hana's heart raced. What do you mean? The old man's gaze never wavered, and for the first time, a flicker of something akin to pity crossed his face. What you hold is no mere device. It is a conduit, a bridge between man and the unknown. Between technology and consciousness. But to unlock its full potential, you will have to sacrifice something. Everything comes with a price, Hana. The words hung in the air like a cloud of smoke, heavy and suffocating. Elon's face was unreadable as he processed the old man's statement, but Hana could feel her chest tightening, her mind racing. I'm not ready to pay that price, Hana whispered, though she wasn't sure if she was speaking to Elon, to the old man, or to herself. I'm not ready to become something else. The old man regarded her for a long moment before responding, his voice steady. You will be. When the time comes, you will make the choice. Whether you are ready or not. The weight of his words hit her like a punch to the stomach, and for a moment, she felt utterly lost. She wanted to scream, to throw the device away and forget everything. But she knew that wasn't an option anymore. The choice had already been made. The machine had already bonded with her, and there was no going back. The old man turned and began to leave, his footsteps echoing on the cold concrete floor. Protect it. For now. But soon, the world will come for it. And when it does, you will have to make your stand. As the door closed behind him, Hana felt a sense of finality settle over her. She could feel the device growing warmer in her hands, its presence almost like a living thing, alive and waiting, as if it knew what was to come. Elon stepped up beside her, his voice a soft murmur in the silence. We'll figure it out, Hana. Together. She looked at him, a faint, uncertain smile tugging at her lips. But it was a smile born of necessity, not certainty. We'll try, she said softly. And with that, the room fell silent once more. Outside, the world turned, unaware of the storm that was about to break. But in the shadows, unseen forces stirred, ready to seize what had been left behind. In the quiet aftermath, Hana stood alone with her thoughts. The device in her hands pulsed faintly, as though it were waiting for her to make the next move. Her heart raced, but it wasn't fear she felt, it was something else. Something more dangerous. And she had a feeling it would be the one thing she couldn't control.